Great. So let's talk about sustainable eye care. I think, you know, you're already involved with there are several sustainability groups. Okay. There's iSustain, there's the ESCRS working group. There's a lot out there. But there was something that I had noticed that was missing. And actually, I appreciate each and every society's work that they are doing, but I felt that I was not seeing that work on the ground in my hospital. I wasn't seeing it being translated. And so I saw some pain points. And then I was actually very fortunate because I was invited to organize a sustainability session about 2 years ago in Belgium for ACOS, the American European Congress of Ophthalmic Surgery. And of course, when I started looking into sustainability, whose name should come up? But of course, Dr. Venkatesh. And so we tried to we tried to bring him across to Belgium to speak, but it was proving to be very difficult. So I thought, well, why not be more sustainable? And so he actually gave a wonderful talk online. And I think we had David Chang also online as well. And then I had some other people like Sandra Di Simplicio, who did the first net zero cataract surgery in the UK. Actually, they talk about it in the world, but I'm not sure if that's accurate because you guys are pretty much net zero here in your cataract surgery. So, it might be inaccurate. But anyway, that's what he was deemed to be. And lots of interesting people. So anyway, we did the symposium. It went very well. And what do you do at the end of the symposium? You go home and say, okay, I'll see you next year. But no. I got off the stage and I was interviewed by iTube, and they said, oh, what are you going to do? And I was like, you know what? I think we should do something about this. So I created the ACOS Green Working Group. And it was just me initially with David Shanazaran, who was my moderator with me. And I reached out to everybody, including Venkatesh. And I said, listen, if we do plan to develop this group, would you be happy to support and collaborate? And of course, he said yes. And so, but before I started to take it out to the world doing different things, I said, let's work on local things. What are the local issues? Can we prove it? So my approach and our approach to sustainability is act locally and impact globally. And that's what you're doing already, but it's just something that was not being done so much in the UK. And the Greener Royal Free London is the sustainability network of our hospital. So they're not focused on ophthalmology, they're focused on everything. So they were focusing on, anesthesia and, gases, etc., to improve sustainability in that sense. So I actually reached out to them and started working with them. So let's talk about cataract surgery. In fact, you will recognize that there is only one picture out of all of these pictures where there's the smallest bags and the least waste. And that's in the bottom right. And that was a image shared by Venkatesh. And I was astounded that in our hospitals, we are wasting 130 kilograms of carbon emission per cataract surgery compared to 6 kilograms here. I mean, the difference is incredible. So I started to collect people that I knew could support this project. So in fact, initially it was just European, but I took my idea to the executive board at Europe and then also to the executive board in the US. And they've actually accepted our ACOS Green Working Group as an entity now globally, or at least for ACOS Europe and ACOS US. It's not quite reached here, but I'm hoping that we continue to collaborate with Venkatesh because I think that actually collaboration is going to be the key here. And you can maybe recognize some great names there, including Venkatesh. And, these are the collaborators that are going to help us in the future. So this was the framework that I created. And of course, everyone will have different sustainability, champion or something, but it's all very divided. One hospital has a champion, they're working away at one thing, but they're not talking to anybody else, or they're seeing what the national thing is, or some international things they'll get involved in, but there was no proper framework. So I created this and I said, right, you've got your ACOS member. It doesn't have to be, it can be anybody. And then you have a sustainability warden, and that every single eye unit in the world should have a sustainability warden. And I'm spreading the word so that it doesn't matter if they're also with iSustain or with ESCRIS or whatever, they can be both. There's no competition. It's more about collaboration. And so if we can get all the sustainability wardens to work together, we don't duplicate work and we can actually do some great collaboration. And then you have your champion or lead, which could be myself or somebody else. And then you have your the next level. Who do you need to convince? You need to convince the clinic staff and the theater staff. And actually today I discovered, and I'm going to add a third area, which is patients. and that's thanks to here. Actually, it's opened my mind that that's something that was missing, that you have to get the patients on board, which is huge. And then I said, okay, in the UK, you can't just make simple decisions and make changes. You have to go through quality improvement, you have to go through clinical governance and all of this. So I said, okay, the best thing to do is to link to the quality improvement team and register your audit or register your project officially so that they can give you the support. And then, of course, connect to pharmacy with medicine optimization and then with waste management as well. So I engaged all these people, and I also started talking to other specialties who may be able to connect with me. Like, for example, renal or endocrinology. They have their patients who are severe, diabetic eye disease, but they're also coming for their dialysis. Maybe it's time to combine, especially at the Royal Free. Moorfields is a standalone eye hospital, so it's not possible. But at the Royal Free, we see the sick patients. And maybe we can combine those things, especially if the patient needs transport or something to come back and forth that costs hundreds of pounds. And then you can combine that. So these are different things that you can think about. I need to get other people on board. So I have Matt Azzopardi, who's our sustainability warden this year. We have the green champion, who's actually the lead for the whole hospital, Renuka, and so on. So you identify these people and then give them jobs. In the previous time, I used to just try and do everything myself, but I realized that the best way to work together as a team is to delegate tasks to the people who are good at doing that task, much like what you do here. So connected to the Green Local Initiative is the first step. Appointing the sustainability warden is the second step, and you'll see we've already amassed about 12 sustainability wardens, including Aravind, across, and we've got people from all over, from Ireland, UK, Paris, Israel, Italy, and here. Okay, so we're already starting to collect this network. And so now I'm slowly starting to email these people with this presentation to have a starting point of a talking point. So to plan these projects, we created primary and secondary drivers and change ideas. This is just an example. You don't have to read it. And by the way, I'm going to share all my slides with you all, so you don't have to make any notes or, look down. It's more about engaging in the talk. And so the way that this works, and this is something that not everybody does, is that if you want to get to the end goal, is to look at each step and how you can achieve it, but also are there any problems for the patient, for the clinician, whilst making that change, and then quickly see how you can mitigate it. So you build everything into it so that it's, completely bulletproof. When you take it to the clinical governance, they have nothing to say because you've answered all the questions by addressing the primary and secondary drivers and the change ideas. And always doing a baseline assessment, as you do, you already know this, and then checking again, what change have we made? Because if you don't have a baseline, your change is lost. So one of the things we did is and I'm sure you already do this, and in fact, this could be a discussion point later, is we have a lot of single dose units. But of course, now there are new bottles available, which are preservative-free bottles, of course, for lubricating drops, but also for glaucoma drops. But it wasn't so well known. And I was realizing that we were giving out monopost, we still do. And in fact, just this last month, a new medication has come out, which is a preservative-free bottled latanoprost, which has never existed before, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it's being compounded in India or something, but just generally we were not aware. And so I took these 8 medications and I did the waste reduction. That was the main key. How much plastic can I save by converting from the single dose units to the bottle? And that was astounding. 80%, 60%, sometimes up to 90%. But then what happened? We realized you can also save money. It was cheaper. And in fact, they were giving me even half price of what it was because they knew we were doing something interesting. So it was even cheaper. So we are, saving an average of 50% in cost. It should be a no-brainer. But how do you get from point A to point B? You have to go through procurement. There's lots of steps. And that's where I'm there, hopefully, to guide anybody who wants to go through those steps, especially in the NHS, but also anywhere else, to get to that point. And so it turned out that by making these changes, and in fact, the Lotocrine came out at the time, and I had to present to the Drug and Therapeutics Committee. And when I presented, I explained everything for the 7 drops. And at the end of it, I said, listen, actually, I have one more drop that I added yesterday. You haven't seen it yet in your application, but I think it's a game changer. Do I have to go through this process again? If you don't ask, you don't get. And what did they say? They said, yes. They said, everyone in agreement? 11 people? Yes, go. So it's already approved as soon as it's come out. And that's when actually changes should occur. We shouldn't be waiting for 2 years to make those changes. And actually, the predicted saving is going to be £100,000 for our North Central London community. And I'm actually translating that just for these 8 drops. So now what are we doing next? Getting 100 drops, 100 medications that we have in the pharmacy, and we're going to look through all of them. But now we started with 8. Now you have to put it on the EPR as well and make sure it's at the top of the EPR so doctors click the right thing. So there's all these things to think about, but it can be really exciting to take something from an idea to fruition. But that took me 18 months to do. That one slide, 18 months. You know, that's why you didn't hear about it before and you're hearing about it now. It's because I wanted to take it to fruition before we can say, okay, everybody, let's do something like this. The same thing here. We have a lot of reusable things, of course, but they get bent, broken, capsular access forceps. You have to ask for a disposable one instead. We were fed up of it. We did an audit. We proved that it was a waste. So I engaged with a company who had high quality steel, which was being recyclable, but people were using it and not recycling it. So I got the company to engage with the local recycling plant. I spoke to the head of the recycling plant and made sure they were actually doing what they were saying they were doing. And I'm going to do a visit in September to them to see myself. And we managed to save, not only recycle every single use that we're using, but also save another £8,000 just based on the audit. So these are simple things you can do. And then moving forward, I'll go through this quickly, but basically we're creating a live QR code on what can and can't be recycled. And we're going to stick it on all the ophthalmology bins so that you can update as things change. And so we did a walk around with the waste management team. I took them around myself and everyone was looking at me like, why are you going crazy? Like, why are you walking around with the bin person? But I was like, no, this is important. You know, you need to know where things are. Is it easy to throw in the right place? And then, of course, we've had lots of achievements globally. We actually highlighted the problem with the IFUs, the electronic, the information for use leaflets that you get in the IOL boxes. Some of them had 12 blank pages. Why? Because that's how it works. You have to fold the pages. So we highlighted it. Yeah, in 65 languages and whatever. And then it's all because of 2-3 countries who cannot have it. So we said it needs to be hybrid. And we weighed it and we named and shamed every company. We're not scared. And did the companies have any backlash against us? No. They were like, oh, by the way, we're making these changes now because you've highlighted it. So everyone's in the same thing. Anyway, we published that in, I think it was in JCRS. And then, as I said, I've been talking about it a little bit more now recently. I was the first non-US doctor to be asked to be part of iDoc Social, which is like against medical misinformation. And I've been using that platform to talk about waste management, trying to make it a little bit fun and interesting, but you know, it's just getting the information out there. And of course, I will be creating a reel on my experience at Aravind, and I'm excited about that. So that's important. So anyway, my top tips for this presentation are, you know, nominate a sustainability warden. You've done that, and I'm excited to take the next steps with Akshay and with Venkatesh. And if you have a local green initiative, I mean, you guys are the local green initiative, so you don't have to connect to anybody. But, you know, internationally, that's something we say. There's something called the Eye Efficiency app where you can weigh your things and compare it and, you know, time yourself, etc. And it's quite a nice way to demonstrate what you're already doing. And then, of course, having a lean surgical trace, recycling, and then, oh, yeah? Oh, great. Oh, see, I learned something new. So that was with Pete Thomas and John Buchanan. Yeah, okay, great, amazing. And so I'll add that to my next time's talk. And then talking about preservative-free options in bottles. So the last thing we did was create a logo because obviously that was not the first aim, but one of my colleagues who's a graphic designer and an ophthalmologist designed this logo for us, which I really like as well. So what's the future? Solving pain points locally, sharing them globally, collaborating with industry and regulators. I'm interviewing every single CEO of every single industry group out there, not being affected by any payments or nothing. It's very straightforward. I ask them what they're doing. Sometimes they don't know. Yeah, that's the problem. If your CEO doesn't know what's happening, then there's real trouble. And so I'm actually questioning them and getting to know them, befriending them, and trying to get them to see my way and building the network. And of course, we continue to endorse all other societies. So that's the end of that talk.